Wonder Woman, issue 771. Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad writing with Travis Moore on the art. And I'll get out of the way. I'm done.
Oh, come on.
I like the art's still great, but I was just, this was a tedious read for me. I have no interest in reading more of this. I'm good.
Okay.
There was a snake. Wonder Woman went in an egg.
You get Nidhogg. You have the. Oh, come on, man.
Like, I know who Nidhogg is. I don't know who Nidhogg is.
That's the snake. They told you.
Well, no, I know what it is now from the book. No, but you said that as if I would know who Nidhogg is was before. I didn't know who Nidhogg is was before.
No, but you said there was a snake. So if you read, they told you its name is Nidhogg numerous times.
No, you're not getting my point, Matt. You said it as if I would care about Nidhogg. I don't, because I didn't know who it was before. That was
right, because you were just so dismissive. You're like, oh, there's a snake, and she has to go into an egg, and it's like it just came from nowhere.
And then it's like, oh, not. What side is Ratatosk actually playing?
Yeah. His own, because he serves Yggdrasil. So if Yggdrasil's sick, then it makes sense that he's got to,
probably
do whatever it takes to save Yggdrasil.
Like, if you're in this mythology, I get why, because it's well told enough. I do think it's a little bit wordy though. I was all.
Yeah, it is a little bit wordy.
The first issue was too. That was one of my main critiques of the first issue. But
especially with the Thor stuff, just
I went on a bit. It
felt like there's something a bit sinister going on where he's just like, oh, there's nothing to worry about because
it's kind of very.
Let the Valkyries deal with it.
That's very Thor.
Yeah.
But everything I felt in the last issue with this arc, and potentially this run, depending on where it goes and how long we're doing all this mythology crap, it just feels like a tangent. It feels like something to do for a while, and
like fun.
And if I cared about this mythology, I'd be more into it. But as it is, I do not, and this was a bit of a chore to get through as a result. So, I'll let you two take the lead. I mean, I did read this, but I'll let you two take the lead because I clearly have nothing that I'm interested in saying.
Yeah. So, Diana goes to Thor because she recognizes he's a god and tries to talk to him about like Siegfried missing and this is not normal. And he's like, oh no, that's how Valhalla replenishes itself. And
every so often some people fade out so we can have fresh blood.
Right. And he seems just to take it, and then she brings up the Valkyries, and he kind of gets dodgy about it. And he's like, oh, you don't want the Valkyries to not be on your side. Right? And stuff.
And then he's like, besides, the missing people are mostly from their team, not mine, so nothing to worry about. Just gives us an advantage. Which is good. On par with mythological Thor. Yep.
Which I do love that this feels nothing like Thor from Marvel, like, at all. It is very, very much the Thor that gets drunk and fights trolls and that version of him.
Yeah.
So
he's not the smartest tool.
No. So I mean he wields a hammer. Like that's it. So they so her and Ratatosk go through Yggdrasil, and he says that they have to go to Nidhogg because give me the exact reason. It's been
it's because they're fighting the elves, or is it before the elves? I think it's before the elves. The thing is, they want to go down because the weapon that Sigurd had. They're like, I mean, maybe the dwarves. Let's go down and try and get some answers.
That's right. And so they fight some merc elves, which and other one are dark elves. In the mythology of the two different kinds. And usually elves and dwarves is the one thing that Tolkien borrowed for Middle Earth. Elves and dwarves don't get along, so why are the elves protecting the
I mean, I would say he also borrowed a lot of the difference between light and dark elves.
Yeah,
with them being very similar, is not
right.
Similar from the fact that orcs, the non-goblin orcs, tend to be the first ones. They were corrupted elves, so there's kind of like a twist on them being the dark elves.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like the whole dwarves and elves don't get along. Long-standing rivalry between them.
Yeah.
And during the fight.
Yeah, so like I say, they're having a big fight outside the cave, and they drop a massive boulder on her, like quite a big one as well. And they use levers to push it off, and it actually knocks her unconscious. So she has a vision, like we got in the dream last time, of the mysterious figure saying, telling her she doesn't belong in Asgard, and then they start saying, something's wrong with Olympus. Or
yeah,
something's wrong with it. That's maybe my assumption that I'm projecting onto that. They say Olympus is, and then it cuts off. And maybe they're saying Olympus is your home.
Not saying this isn't important, but Olympus is. And then my brain automatically fell in Fallen from those stupid Gerard Butler movies.
I'm not gonna lie. When the boulder fell on her, right, when it was pushed on her, my thought was, and Connor will push this more than Matt, but my thought is that Wonder Woman didn't hit the QTE, because all I could think was Resident Evil 4 when they drop a boulder on you and you have to hit some buttons to dodge out of the way. Hey, it's not a great insight, but
sure.
I read the book, so I'm interjecting a thought.
I do like when she goes to this realm. It is in black and white, but almost like unfinished pencils. Like she's almost reloading. Like you bring up a video game, but it's like she's respawning.
Yeah, I really like the color, especially how it's in the red border for the panels, and there's the red outline of the word bubbles of the mysterious figure. I do like that.
So Connor, you're a fellow fan of mythology. Are you getting Atlas vibes from this?
Are you saying that largely because of the way it's holding things up? Like the arms are up, they look like it's holding up the world.
Yeah, and so like if you have Yggdrasil, which is the world tree, which connects all the different realms, right? And then you also have Atlas, who holds up the world. That's his penance for being a, for leading
Titan.
Yeah, for being a Titan.
Some armies.
You would think that like maybe him holding the world is almost like a doorway. He's almost holding up the sphere of the gods.
I can see that logic actually.
Right.
Almost you could kind of do a twisted take on mythology where he is a branch of Yggdrasil.
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
That'd be interesting.
Right, because they come back and they venture into the cave that leads to Nidavellir. After she's Diana's straight up murdering elves, and runs them off. And they get there, and this is the first surprise that I got is who happens to be in working the forge, but Dr. Psycho.
And I don't know about you, but this is the first time I've read anything with Dr. Psycho since watching the Harley Quinn show.
I can't not hear Tony Hale's voice.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
No. And just the whole play on him being short, yet being the one manning the forge.
Yep.
I'm just like, okay, well, the writers are having fun with the Wonder Woman mythology, because now how the hell did he get here?
Yeah, he's just like, oh, this is nothing. Yeah, astral projection. This is my safe space. Raw masculinity.
Which I did love that aspect, because again, I was never that familiar with Dr. Psycho, and then watching the Harley Quinn show, and you get that he is toxic masculinity, right? He's got that chip on his shoulder, and no woman's better than him.
I
and then you think about
a lot of Norse mythology has been co-opted by terrible people for those reasons.
Right.
So kind of the idea that he's kind of taken that as well makes a lot of sense.
Makes a whole lot of sense. And just so I could throw some other stuff, that Viking culture, as we know historically, was actually pretty, equality based. That women could hold land and titles. I mean, it's still the Middle Ages.
More so than other cultures at the same time. Sure.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, it wasn't 100% equality. But just being a woman didn't disqualify you from, holding land, being in charge.
A lot of leadership roles.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you could definitely hold land, and you could inherit, which was huge.
Right. So, just wanted to throw that out there, because, the Norse stuff does catch a lot of bad stuff because of the bad actors that have co-opted it, So, I gotta, as the resident Viking nerd, I have to,
Vikings were all, there is a difference between Viking and Norse. Viking being a profession.
Right.
Vikings, on the whole, pretty terrible people.
Yeah. Well,
it's kind of what they did.
trying to stop the spread of Christianity through that. Tends to do that, right? Like,
well, there was many a pillage committed by Vikings. It's kind of their shtick.
Yeah.
Let's say not the best people, but very fascinating society.
Very much so. So, Psycho, who wants to be called by his actual name, which, how do you pronounce it? Is it sort of Psycho? Is it Cisco?
I don't know, because it reads as Cisco, doesn't it?
Right.
But I could buy that it's Psycho if you wanted to.
Right.
I'm assuming it's not, just because otherwise, he wouldn't be able to tell the difference when she called the dog the Psycho, right?
Right. So she wants to know, he's building these weapons, and so it goes off like, well, if there's something up with the weapons, that are being enchanted wrong or whatever, he must have something to do with it. So she makes him talk, and he claims he has nothing to do with the Valkyries whatsoever.
Would you say if that makes him talk? We're dealing with some torture here, right?
I think so, because she goes over to these weapons, but she doesn't grab a blade. She grabs a rope.
Right, and it talks about there's this familiarity, like there's this, the memory almost of the lasso of truth, but this is not the lasso of truth.
I think that's the point, is that it's evoking the imagery of the lasso of truth. It says anything can be a lasso of truth in the right hands, which implies a really dark event took place.
He's tied to a chair, and all I can think of is Casino Royale.
Yeah. Well, it is Dr. Psycho, so it wouldn't have that much damage, right? You'd think. he ain't Bond.
It's a very small target.
Yeah, come on, but no, definitely some light torture. You maybe, bending fingers back, maybe.
The one thing with Dr. Psycho is he would crack pretty quickly when it comes to physical torture, so it wouldn't take that much. So light torture is probably fair, but it's really dark. I love the colors here as well, because this whole place is underground. It's these deep
glowing
reds, the furnace, but it takes over, and just for these couple of pages where the torture happens, and there's a lot of really heavy shadows. There's the panel of Ratatos kind of peering out from behind the corner, just in shadow, but this red glow, absolutely gorgeous.
And so he's the one that brings up the serpent. So they go down to the roots of Yggdrasil, and basically the serpent says that I have the key, but it's inside, so you got to come get it. That's quite a challenge.
I'll swap at you for an eagle egg on Ratatosk's. I want to say advice. What's the word I'm looking for here? Kind of insistence, maybe interjection. And he's like, "Hey, what about an eagle egg? That seems fair."
And so they do the swap, and so now they have to climb up Yggdrasil, which we get this real fun, back and forth between her and Radstock to get to the eagle, which I remember there's something special about the eagle, and I have to look this up. But as they're going up, they pass like a face on the tree, which I thought was a fun little art.
Yeah, that was nice. And then we run into Odin.
Yeah. Who has hung himself, upside down, mind you.
I was going to say, interesting, probably more of a family-friendly, safe depiction, because this is, I'm assuming this is just a T-rated comic off the top of my head. So he's hanging from a foot, not from his neck, as is typically portrayed.
But he's hanging from the branch, and she asks if he's okay, and he's dozed off because he's sacrificed himself to gain knowledge, which, Norse mythology.
Yep. This is where he gives up his eye and hangs for 3 days.
Yeah. And so, talks about how, asks if she's met his son Thor. She says, yeah. He's a good kid, bit of a dunderhead, but he means well. And I was like, that's Thor in a nutshell.
Pretty much, yeah.
But yeah, so you also have Jungian and Munin right there, which is another nice art flourish. Like, Moore is really having a lot of fun. Like, and I don't know if that's in the script. I'm sure it is. but just the way that, all these aspects are being thrown in, I appreciate them. But yeah, so they talk about the unknowable, and then he, kind of cuts himself loose
and just goes dropping.
Right.
But he mentions, you do hope you sort the thing with the Valkyries out there critical, and it's like okay. And again, Odin's very cryptic here. That's
right.
This is quite a not a unique take, but an interesting take on Odin, where he'll speak in not necessarily riddles, but just seemingly nonsense, but is usually very, very important.
You have to kind of decipher it, which again tends to he's the god of wisdom and that type of stuff. So he's the main god.
He just knows a lot of stuff and just assumes that everyone else knows a lot of stuff as well. And when he talks, and then doesn't realize that we don't have that knowledge necessarily, and so you have to kind of really put pieces together. Things come clearer later. I will be interested to go back and read this conversation later in the arc. I'm sure it is enlightening. Right.
And as they're going up the tree, the battle horn sounds, and she looks, and there's still the fight going on, and it looks like giants have now entered the fray, which is pretty big thing. Seems like Ragnarok's along the way, and then Siegfried appears to her almost like in a vision. So
there's an interesting effect because it feels like there's something. Because if it was just the first panel, I would say, oh, it's just a vision. But the disappearing into the green smoke makes it feel like there was something there.
Yeah,
which is a little bit different to me. What I expect. It's like almost when the battle horn goes, he is still summoned. There is something there to call him back. I'm very intrigued as to what he's doing there.
Yeah, so they get to the eagle, and very unnamed
quickly gives up the egg.
Right, but so I'm looking here of the eagle and Nidhogg and Radstock, and there's a balance between them in the old Prose Edda, where Radstock carries messages between the unnamed eagle and Nidhogg, the worm that resides below the world tree. They propose many theories about the implications of this bird. Right, so again, not exactly what's going on with the bird, but like Connor said, it hands it over pretty well. So whatever it is, it knows Radstock's plan, you would think. Just to hand over one of the eggs. And of course, Radstock's
slide all the way down.
Right. Which again, pretty fun visual flourishes here, and then they hollow out the egg. And they put Diana in it because the shell's hard enough. It'll save her from all the teeth. And
seemingly a little bit Trojan horse stuff going on here.
Yeah. And Radstock hands over the egg, says the eagle ate Diana. So unassuming. But Nidhogg, before the final panel, brings up that this makes our bargain null and void. All the key remains with me, and well done. Every day passes. I feel the roots of Yggdrasil weaken. So
it's very interesting because Diana even says to Ratatosk just a page or two before this that she's not sure if she's the one being tricked or not. You can't tell with Ratatosk.
Right.
And is it because again that's the implication here when he's talking with Nidhogg here at the end is that no, they had a secret bargain, and he's just sacrificed Diana and given the egg, part of a larger plan. But I don't know. I don't know if that's Ratatosk tricking the serpent or not. I genuinely can't tell.
Right. I feel like if Ratatosk, I don't feel is playing their own game because he lives in the world tree. So if the roots of the world tree are dying, that gives that up. So unless he's someone else, unless it's revealed this is a form of Loki, who's mischievous or whatever. But yeah. So I definitely feel like he's tricked Nidhogg here because we know Diana's in there and we know she's going to get the key, So
yeah, I think ultimately we have faith in Diana as a character to get herself out, right?
Right.
Which, yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed this. It's a very dense issue. There's a lot goes on, as you can tell. Like, we've gone through like 6 different plot threads. It seems like.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel that when I'm reading it. It flows really well.
I felt
I think
it.
even I was gonna say I think even Pete would acknowledge that despite not caring about all the mythology and stuff, it's not a challenging read.
I mean, it depends what you mean by challenge, I suppose, because I did feel the length, I did feel the density. So
was that just on sheer like the amount of words, especially near the start, or was that on the actual like there was a lot happening?
Probably mostly just the words for the most part, to be honest, near the start.
So
a lot of bubbles.
Being a fan of all this mythology and stuff, it definitely seems like someone's trying to break the cycle of Ragnarok, right? Because Ragnarok's a great cycle. Every time their time ends, it restarts and they do it all again. And that's what the whole stuff in Valhalla that Thor's not worried about, right? However, if someone's trying to weaken the world tree and break the cycle and like is trying to free Nidhogg, you know, then who is behind that and why do they want to break the cycle? Because if they break the cycles, they're going to throw the sphere of the gods out of whack. You know, is this someone from Diana's realm? You know, from Olympus that's doing this?
He spelled something. He's going to go and deal with the spellage. I can tell you, Matt.
Yeah, no. So there's just a lot of questions that, you know, as someone that's more dialed into this than, you know, someone like you, Pete, that lends to questions. But removing all that, I mean, just her going to the key. This is typical hero stuff. You know, this is stuff from mythology. You know, tricking the dragon or whatever. And yeah, so I really enjoy it. But that shocker, right? This is exactly the type of stuff I like Wonder Woman being involved in. So, and you throw Vikings in there or Norse stuff, and it's doubly so.
Yeah, I don't care about any of it. So
yeah, of course.
That's basically what it boils down to. I'm not typically into fantasy stories, and mythology to me is just fantasy. A lot of fantasy comes from mythology, or is a take on mythology in a lot of ways. Yeah, it's one of those things where I just like I didn't leave it till last. Technically, I left Rorschach to last because I always leave that to last for some reason. I guess because it's separate in my brain from the rest of the DC books. But I left this to last of the rest of the books, partly because I just was putting it off because I knew I wasn't super enthusiastic about it. You know, well, it wasn't like all bad issue 1. Certainly, there was definitely things to say, and the art is still very, very good. I knew I wasn't that excited, and then actually reading it, I kind of felt myself like I'm kind of forced myself through this because it's called Wonder Woman, not because I actually am enjoying what it's doing. It feels filler feels a bit harsh, but it does feel like it is just doing something that is separate from everything else because it's not allowed to be a part of anything else right now. So yeah, I'm done. I sort of knew about halfway through the issue. I was just kind of like, you know, I'm done with this squirrel leading her around. You know, and then Big Jake towards the end. I was like, you know, I'm good.
Gotcha. So did you read the backup?
No, but I knew I wasn't going to read the backup because I didn't like it in the
me either.
first issue.
I looked at it, and for whatever reason, I thought it was going to be the Nubia stuff, right?
Nah.
And it was this, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So, Takara, did you read the backup? No, that was that. Okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So then, if I'm rating it, I'm going to give this an 8.5 because I thoroughly enjoyed this. The art, again, and a lot of the story, despite being really dense and a lot to read, it's a lot of what I like to read. So you can't complain too much.
Yeah. Well, Connor?
8.5 from me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is a tough one to rate. I'll go with 5.5. I won't put it in the bad category because objectively I don't think it is bad. It's just I got nothing out of it and found it a bit of a chore. because having a lot of dialogue isn't necessarily a big problem necessarily, but when I am uninterested in what the book's about and it's constantly referring to names and places and shit that I don't know, it just makes it kind of gloss over. Like, you know, it's almost sleep fuel at that point where my brain just starts to turn away from it. But there you go. I'm sure you two will keep reading it though, so not to worry.
Not a chance of that stopping anytime soon.
There'll be coverage on Wonder Woman on the show. I'll jump back in when we're done with all this the Valhalla shit.
That's an interesting question then. So, assuming that this is a one arc thing, and the run continues, it still builds off of this stuff, but we're no longer in Valhalla and no longer playing with Norse mythology. Are you going to jump back in then, or like straight away?
No. I'll jump back in when Wonder Woman's back on Earth and doing regular continuity stuff.
Hey, but we are gonna have a Wonder Girl starting soon. So
yes. Oh, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I keep getting to those the single page ads for it at the back of the books.
Yeah,
it makes me very happy.
Yeah, I'm not into Wonder Woman going around, even if it's various different settings, being like vaguely amnesiac. Is that a word?
I mean, assuming that, again, hypothetically, end of this arc, she has her memories back, and she's dealing with Olympus. Like, you know, she's back to, you know, her own area of expertise.
Mm-hmm.
Does that count as, like, you know, it's technically not Earth, but it's still like, you know, that's Wonder Woman territory?
It's hard to judge. It's especially hard to judge when I'm not reading it, and like, is it enough of a change to justify me
It's like
coming
he
back?
doesn't want to say no, but he doesn't want to hard commit either. So he's like, meh.
Yeah, I'm not hard committing. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with admitting you're not 100% sure on something. Okay, that's okay.
No, I know, but just the way that you were saying it, it was just like
really hedging your bets.
Yeah, it was real funny to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this, because maybe this run will only be all this stuff, and then once we do have her back on like a sort of more regular place, it'll be a new run then, and so then maybe that'll be when I jump back in anyway. But for now, I'm good. I'm good. I don't feel like I'm going to miss anything that important.
So Pete doesn't like the eagle, the squirrel, the snakes. He's gonna hate the deer if they get to that point on the world tree. So
yeah,
what Pete hates is fun.
Hey, I could. There's definitely a way to tell this story where I'm more into it. It's not like I can't get into things that are set within this mythology.
Name one thing you're into that's set in this mythology.
I like God of War.
You did it.
Actually, yeah. I can't remember the name of a single god outside of the ones that I would know anyway in that game. But that's okay, because what I cared about was Kratos.
Do you know who Tyr is?
No.
That's a big mystery in God of War. Like, because he's not there. Well, not who he is, but he's missing, so to speak.
So his justice is missing.
To put it in context, I don't remember which god the villain of God of War was. I remember what he looked like and what he sounded and what the fighting was like. I couldn't tell you what his name was. I don't know who it was. Was Baldur? Okay.
Yeah.
I would never have gotten that in a million
years. I was going to suggest Baldur, just because of the, you know.
Well, because I'm assuming, Matt, you happen to presumably already know Baldur's weakness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty important in that game.
Very Achilles-esque.
Yeah. Like, I know Matt hasn't played that, and it plays it as like a mystery the first couple of times you see him, but if you know your mythology, you get it pretty quickly. So I don't feel like I'm spoiling it for you personally.
No.
Yeah. I didn't know his weakness. I don't remember it now, if I'm honest, but that's okay.
Mistletoe.
Mistletoe.
Because Loki is the reason.
Yeah, because Loki. Yeah, it's a lot of mythology is because Loki.
I don't remember shoving mistletoe in his face in the game, but all right, I'll take it.
Whoa! Come on now.
I'm sure you have to forge a spear out of the wood of mistletoe, and then that's how you defeat him. Because
arrow.
Because again, that's a lot of Norse mythology is the gods just messing around and bad things happening because of it. And like one of my favorite stories is that at Baldur's funeral, the gods are so upset because they're not used to the gods dying, right? To make everyone feel better, Thor kicks a dwarf into the fire. And it's just like, Yeah. Okay. God's doing stuff because, we're sad, so we're gonna throw this. Yeah.
Loki's a horse having horse babies. What are you gonna do about it?
Ooh, one of his horse babies is the 8-legged steed of Odin, Sleipnir.
Yes.
And another one's a wolf that's gonna eat the world. Fenrir.
Loki's such a weird character. I love it.
He is.
Does Balder never attack at Christmas because he might find some mistletoe?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's the whole concept of the wild hunt is kind of what gives the idea of a lot of Christmas traditions that we celebrate now.
I'm just imagining Kratos just getting some mistletoe hanging up on the ceiling so that when Balder walks in to kill him, he's like, "Oh no, you're under the mistletoe."
And it was basically it's a godly oversight is the only reason that the mistletoe. It's like who gives a shit.
It's a lot. It's very similar to Achilles, with mom dipping him into the river by his heel. Therefore, it's the only part that's vulnerable.
Was
there's a difference to that where it's a forced thing like that's inherent in the stories. No, you have to have a weakness because of this. Whereas in Balder, it's Loki going, "Screw you! You need a weakness."
Was the big snake in the lake and God of War the same snake as this Wonder Woman issue?
No. That's the Midgard serpent. That's a little bit different. Okay. That's the serpent that eventually kills Thor.
Yeah, different snake.
In Ragnarok.
He seemed more friendly in God of War, which is why I was asking. But yes, okay.
Do you know the reason there's a lot of snakes in Norse mythology? It's or the reason that historians think there is a lot of snakes. They're not snakes at all. They're worms.
Right.
And it's because people in the Middle Ages had a lot of worms inside them, and they would come out and be rather large, and that led to a lot of unflattering opinions of the imagery of them. Just what led to a lot of stories.
Yeah. Well, another word for worm is also dragon, so that makes sense.
Yep.
That's disgusting.
It is disgusting, but it's why it stuck with me. It was such a fun fact to learn.
I don't know what you think about that. That is absolutely disgusting. I mean, there's a lot of things that have improved since the Middle Ages. I'm now putting that number one on the list.
It's why Dog is generally considered to be unchivalrous and is a sign of poor honor.
Right.
It's because of that link.
Well, yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. That's that conversation done. I'm happy to leave it and never come back.
Can you tell me and Matt like mythology?
Dave was going to have fun editing the back chunk of that out of the Wonder Woman video.